Welcome to Beyond Graves and Stars, the horror and sci-fi movie podcast. My name's Andy. I'm a movie nerd. I love horror, love sci-fi, and every episode I look at a usually overlooked horror or sci-fi movie, go through franchises, talk about remakes, basically loads of stuff. Have a look online. There's loads of episodes up already. I've covered all of the Nightmare on Elm Street films, all the Trancer films. There's lots up there. I'm currently going through some Stephen King movies, which I've done a few of, and there's going to be more later on this year. I'm asking people to pick sci-fi horror films they love that I think are underrated, and I'll watch it and discuss the film with them, do special episodes on that. And I'm going through the J horror franchise, Tomie. This episode is one of those episodes. I'm looking at the 5th part, Forbidden Fruit. Each of these special episodes, I'm joined by Adam Whybray, who has his own podcast, Still Scared, which we'll talk about in this episode. If you haven't listened to the first 4, they're all online. Have a listen. We go into these movies blind. We don't do any research for these ones. On other ones, we often do research, or we've seen them before. But this is fun. Sat down with Adam, watched Tomie Forbidden Fruit, then straight after we had a conversation. This episode is that conversation. Adam, welcome back.
Hoi hoi.
You all right?
I'm okay. It's summer holiday for me, so
Party time.
well, it's not really party time because I'm finishing off a 5 years in the making edited collection on animated horror.
Okay.
Yeah, which are going to be published by the University of Wales Press. It's going along all right. The external reviewer, I shouldn't know this. I do know it because I checked the properties of the file, and thus I could see who saved it. So the external reviewer is the only other person who is publishing a book on animated horror, and while she's given some good suggestions, there's part of me that wonders if she's slowed down our process a little bit. Maybe that's a bit harsh. So, some of the changes are a little pedantic, but I'm being game. I've been making all the changes, and so hopefully it's going to be with the publisher by October, and then that's it. I'm going to say, right, no more. It's done.
It's done.
I want it done. Especially as new animated horrors come out. Like I've just did you see the amazing digital circus at the cinema, Andee?
I did not. No, I haven't seen any of the because it was a YouTube.
Yeah, it's
I haven't seen any of that.
It's a glitch YouTube series. Well, I went to see it. I managed to be incredibly awkward. I went along to see it on my own. I was the only adult not accompanying a child. There was a group of kids there who I taught doing supply teaching at primary, and they're like, "Oh look, is that funny supply teacher?" So I came over, I was like, "Hey kids, I'm going to see Amazing Digital Circus," and they looked awkward and didn't want to talk to me.
This whole intro is how horror films start, you noticed?
Yeah.
With the rival writer, and then. But did you enjoy it?
Did I? Oh, I did enjoy. I saw it in 4DX.
Oh, well, I love 4DX.
So I got prodded in the back. I got sprayed in the face. There were some really horrible really awful smells.
Was that the 4DX or just the other people in the cinema?
It could well have been both, Andy. Anyway, I wanted to get it in to say that me and Ren covered it on my podcast, Still Scared.
Okay, but that's now yet, horror. Is it, episode? Yeah, it is. Oh, because I've still got the Clive Barker one to listen to.
Oh wow!
Sorry, well, they're an hour and a half.
Yeah, we do go on. Not 20. I mean, not. Yeah.
Well, let's listen to the quite a few though.
Thanks.
So I will. I'll get.
To be fair, I need to listen to more of this podcast, not just listen to the one to me on.
To be fair, I only listen to the ones with me on. Yeah, so I was going to say with the book and stuff, this movie, Tomie Forbidden Fruit, may encourage you to do some fan fiction?
Well, yeah, so our protagonist in this one, who happens coincidentally to also be called Tomie.
Ooh. Bow, bow, bow.
It is a budding author and erotic fan fiction writer.
Yeah.
It seemed at first I thought she was writing Twilight fanfic, but you pointed out this Tomie Forbidden Fruit was released in 2002, so that's, I think, before the first Twilight.
I think Twilight was like 2009 or something, was it?
Yeah, I mean, the films obviously come out just that little bit after the books, but
yeah.
No, I think you're right, so this must be like,
yes,
I don't know, Interview with a Vampire fanfic or something.
Yeah, or just fanfiction in general, because it's been about... For years, I mentioned Doctor Who. I mean, obviously, this isn't a Doctor Who fan fiction, erotic.
It did seem more like a kind of.
And then Sylvester McCoy took off his scarf.
I think this is more like the romantasy that she's writing. So if she published it today, she'd probably be quids in. To be honest,
exactly. Yeah. There must be Tomie fan fiction.
That's a good point. I haven't checked fanfic archive. Yeah. There probably is.
So this is part 5. It's called Forbidden Fruit. There's no fruit in it.
On our DVD, Forbidden is misspelt, but I don't think that's the filmmaker's fault. I think that's
whoever put the DVD together.
Yeah,
because it's quite hard to get hold of. This one, if you want to watch it, we did find, I won't say where, but we found it on a streaming platform that you can watch for free, but it probably isn't up there legally. So you can probably work out where we found it.
Okay.
But we watched it on this collection of Blu-rays that we purchased from the interweb.
This is very obviously not legitimate.
Yeah, but it has had releases in the past. You might be able to pick up second-hand copies, etc. So this is the 5th installment. This is another cinematic release. The second one was a made-for-TV.
But budget-wise, it feels closer to the second one.
True, it does. It didn't look so great, but that might be the transfer, because it's we watched it on a copy, basically.
That is true, although there aren't many special effects in this one.
No.
So it goes down more of the psychodrama route.
Yeah.
That generally it seems like the lower budget it is, the less you can do the body horror,
the
more you have to do the psychodrama.
But for this it worked, I think. I think it, plot-wise and just general attention keepingness.
It's probably the best plotted Tomie film so far.
Yeah.
I think on a par with the first one. And interestingly, and I say this as a fan of Junji Ito, this is the first Tomie film that really isn't lifted from a specific Tomie manga.
No.
Like the basic premise of Tomie, but actually the story isn't like any of the mangas. So it's kind of, I don't know if that just tells you that plotting isn't actually Junji Ito's, say it quietly, strong suit, and it isn't. No. Junji Ito's really, really great at, I mean, in a way, I mean, Stephen King does have some good plotting abilities, but I do think he's a bit like Stephen King in as much as he's got an amazing ability to come up with really novel, decent horror ideas and images. And then sometimes the plotting's there, sometimes not so much. I mean, with Junji Ito, a lot of the manga are just standalone little stories, and they're then anthologized. So actually, if you're reading a manga equivalent of a short story, there's often not much plot there. It's short.
And you can see why the second movie was an anthology for that reason. But I don't think that's my least favourite and didn't work as well. But it's a different medium, so therefore...
it's different because I think in the mangas often you're building up to the splash page. You're building up to the full spread, and Ito's such an accomplished artist, you'll get some incredibly well drawn display of body horror, like Tomie, having half transformed into some kind of beastly 5 Tomie amalgamation, and you get a little bit of that here.
You do,
but not much. There's Tomie regenerating, and her kind of larval form is like a big squelchy bug, and she gets another Tomie head sort of low down in the abdomen.
And not to do a spoiler, but the very last shot, more or less, of this film would be the splat page, wouldn't it? When you think about it.
You're right, actually.
Yeah, so it's built up in that respect, but. Very quickly, do you want to give a quick synopsis? Because it's
all right. I'll give it a go. Okay, so our protagonist is bullied, glasses-wearing nerd called Tomie. who her only friends, not really friends, but 3 bad girls who use her as a source of their amusement. It starts off with them practicing with a bow and arrow set and making her do the old William Tell routine.
Yes.
So she's pretty put upon. Her mum's been dead 10 years and she lives with her widower father, who's a bit of a sad sack, works for an ice factory.
Yeah, the factory. If you want ice, you can just go to this factory and buy big ice.
Buy some ice.
Yeah.
And she spends most of her time sat at home writing fan fiction, basically. Yeah. Tomie comes along, and at first it seems you were quite taken, and you thought this was a changed, nice Tomie.
Yeah, I fell for it. Yeah, definitely.
And it seemed like Tomie just wanted a friend this time, and so befriends with, as you said, one of the reviews noted, lesbian undertones.
Yeah.
Other Tomie, and all is going nicely. She invites her into the house, but it seems like Dad takes a bit of an interest in this Tomie, and it soon is revealed that Dad dated Tomie in previous Tomie incarnation.
Yeah.
When he was a young man, and that actually Tomie has just come back to get her revenge on him.
Yeah.
Because basically he got remarried, had this daughter, kept this shrine to his departed wife, and Tomie is jealous. She's like, well, you didn't make a shrine for me.
Yeah.
What's this? You had a daughter with her,
which you named after me.
So Tomie is not having it, and basically wants him to kill the protagonist, Tomie.
Daughter, yeah.
But actually does a very bad job of it. What's most surprising and funny in this film is that normally in the previous films, Tomie has done a very good job at getting people under her spell and then getting them to kill themselves. This one, Tomie fails repeatedly.
Yeah, I mean, she's good at getting them under a spell, but then she doesn't get them to do anything. So
yeah,
she takes, and then she's like she mucks about a lot, and it gives them time to realise what's going on. Break the spell. You know?
And she just comes on too rude in this one. Normally, Tomie is a bit more subtle and ingratiating, but she starts just insulting everyone too quickly, and they're like, "Well, you're not very nice, are you?"
I mean, I prefer coffee made with coffee beans, but if I'm around someone's house, firstly, if I demand a cup of coffee without being offered one, which I'd never do, by the way, I'm not rude, do invite me round. Demanding a coffee, and then when it's instant, just throwing it back in her face, more or less.
Yeah.
Rude. So yeah, I mean, there were signs there.
Yeah, and one later, when she's in her sort of more helpless larval phase, she's being fed some perfectly nice-looking baby food, which she rejects. She's like, I'm not a baby. And I said, look, next thing she'll be asking for caviar. And lo and behold, she demands caviar, and she says that Tomie protagonist should be robbing a bank to get her money just to buy her caviar.
Yeah.
So
I'd have just robbed the restaurants, save the middleman.
That's a fair point. But either way, Tomie does a good job at upsetting and annoying people in this film. Yeah,
and we mentioned that when he was younger, the dad had a relationship with Tomie. Now, there's one flashback scene, and it hints at things, but you never really find out what actually happened.
Well, who killed that incarnation of Tomie? Yeah, it's quite odd. It sounds like Tomie, I mean, you know, as ever with Tomie, it gets into kind of dubious victim-blaming territory. She was assaulted, possibly.
But this is what I was going to say, because the scene we see, she's in a relationship with the dad. And then she's on some rocks or whatever, and another chap is kissing her. The dad sees this. And now, I think, this is my theory, that she was with the dad. She was, I'm not going to use the word, but assaulted by this guy.
Yeah.
But he thought they were together. Then he left the relationship, and she was in this abusive relationship, which may have led to her being murdered.
Yes.
So in her own way, even though someone else done it, she blames the dad. But that's not clear.
I mean...
at first I thought, did the dad kill her?
Yeah, I don't think he did the first time. And the film starts, actually, even I think before we meet our protagonist, right?
Yeah, the opening scene, it was a bit...
With a man having hung himself and seemingly having killed Tomie, although that's left fairly... You only kind of know that if you have seen the previous films and know who Tomie is.
Thinking about it now, maybe that was the guy who assaulted her.
No, I think possibly.
Yeah,
I think...
Because that way, if he's died, she can't have revenge on him anyway, so why not have revenge on the guy who could have stopped it?
Yeah, and I think...
At the end of the day, this is what she wanted anyway. She loves killing people.
Yeah, Tomie generally enjoys... I mean, one thing that does come back, which I like in this film, which I think was present in the third film, is Tomie getting really annoyed if anyone calls her a monster.
Oh, yeah.
It's like... She'll throw out... She can give it out, but she can't take it. She'll insult people, insult them. She says to our protagonist, possibly not unrealistically, that she call her like a slow, gloomy, sad girl. Like a slow, gloomy, plain girl or something. Harsh. But Tomie like hates being called a monster. As soon as someone calls her a monster, she gets really murderous and angry. And that happened in the third film too. And I think it's because... I mean, I compared it to if you're a human and a slug called you disgusting, and you'd feel quite righteous about it. I think it's because Tomie is an immortal being who stays forever young and forever beautiful. Well, I mean, she sometimes looks quite horrific.
Yeah.
But, you know, in Tomie's mind. And so, for her, being called a monster by a human is like a serious insult. She's like, how dare you? I'm way superior to you. You calling me a monster? Yeah. And it makes her really annoyed.
Very true, yeah. And it's like her Marty McFly being called a chicken, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
She really hates it.
She hates it.
And so if you do fall into Tomie's trap, be careful. And you're going to die anyway, but if you want to die, you know, have a bit more time on this planet, don't call her a monster.
Oh, yeah, it really annoys her. Yeah. But... I think it's like she sees humans as her underlings, basically, and they should be there to serve her and what she wants.
Yeah, it usually goes wrong for her anyway. But yeah, I mean, this is one of those that watching it, and now we're discussing it, going back to the opening scene and that, there's a lot going on in this movie.
I'd say I do think the screenplay's pretty decent. I quite like this idea of Tomie sort of insidiously insinuating herself into a family. I think that's quite neat. I do wonder if another family member would have been useful, whether a grandparent or another sibling.
Oh, yeah, little brother who who is anti to start with, and they dismiss it, and then but he knows, he sees.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Because I think just having the dad and the daughter, there's not quite enough there for the psychological drama. It works to an extent, but I do think another family member would have been useful.
Yeah. Also, going back to who killed her originally, I don't think the dad would have named his daughter Tomie if he'd have murdered the other Tomie.
Yeah, I agree.
Unless it's to throw off the scent.
Because when I read the plot summary of this one, well, no, I didn't read the plot summary. I read, just a sort of log line, a few sentences. I wondered if it was going to be a bit closer to Visitor Q, the Takashi Miike film, which I haven't seen. I know it's one of his more explicit, but I know it's about like a mysterious man who insinuates himself into a family's life and basically is sleeping with all of them and turns the family against each other, and just it becomes debauched chaos. And
why would you do that? Get a life.
But I thought it might be a bit more like that in terms of father and daughter turned against each other, competing for Tomie. And there's an aspect of that, but that's not as foregrounded as I expected, actually.
No, it's more because one of them sees the other one being affected by Tomie. It helps them realise it's a spell.
Yeah, weirdly. Yeah, and you get quite a lot of... There are bits where the father's very paranoid and he accidentally hurts his daughter, but mostly they end up kind of on the same team.
Yeah.
Which was interesting.
Excuse background noise, by the way. It's hot and we've got the window open.
I don't think it's too bad.
Well, I don't know. Listeners might think it's their background noise and looking around.
That's true. You might spook them out too much.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, it's interesting though, because we've got these three kind of bad girl bully characters. And I think we both assumed that Tomie was going to dispatch them herself.
Yeah.
maybe through some body horror malarkey. And actually, when they do end up suffering their just desserts, it's rather more grim than that.
Yeah.
It becomes a little bit bleak that it's the father who mistakenly thinks, basically there's some confusion created by protagonist and antagonist being called the same name.
Yeah.
And so they come there to torment, they say kill, although I think just bully and torment protagonist Tomie, and he assumes they're there to kill demon Tomie, and so has at them with a baseball bat, and it's kind of nasty.
Yeah. There's a bit before that what really made me laugh when they talk about how Tomie hasn't been in school for a month, so they decided to go around a house and bully her there. Yeah. It's obviously something majorly up, but we haven't got to bully her for a month, so let's go to a house and do it.
Yeah, I mean they're definitely portrayed as two-dimensional, irredeemable bullies. I don't think there's anything likeable about them at all.
They're the kind of bullies that they are spoofing in things like Mean Girls.
Yeah.
And they're horrible. They're 2D characters.
Yeah. They're just absolutely awful.
They don't do anything other than pick on people.
Yeah.
You know. So, but it helps for the plot, and there are people like that out there. I imagine.
Well, but I don't know. I did find it a bit odd because I'm not going to lie. I thought they could have dispatching them, and I don't think they seem to struggle away like wounded but not dead at the end, as far as I could tell.
Yeah.
But like, I'm not going to lie. I thought that it would be a bit more fun, and maybe it's trying to show that revenge and the path of violence is wrong, because it wasn't fun. It was just a bit bleak, really.
Yeah. I mean, there was some comedy thrown in, like when Tomie is being regenerated, so to speak. She's been pushed around by other Tomie in a buggy,
in a pram, yeah.
And there's an old lady wants to fuss over
power walking in the park.
Yeah, and firstly the old lady's told to basically go away anyway.
Yeah, so Tomie's like, I don't want to look at you, or something.
And then she comes back and tries again.
Yeah,
like there's a lot of creepiness towards younger people in this film, and that's the first sign of it. But that's
interesting. It is a bit of a through line, because there's a seemingly slightly pervy boss at the ice place factory, this old man who seems to have a bit of an unsavoury interest in protagonist Tomie.
Yeah, but then does he? You know?
He's redeemed at the end.
Yeah,
he helps save the day.
But so there's a lot going on.
Hashtag not all perverts.
Yeah, mostly though. And I mean the dad as well is a complex, confused character.
He's a muddled man.
And I just like the fact he works in an ice factory. I mean, is that a thing?
I don't know. I'm gonna have to research this. We should research whether this is a big thing in Japan. I sort of assumed this was an aspect of Japanese culture I don't know about.
Yeah, or they've just made it up for the point of the plot. Because there's towards the end there's a part where she could be frozen. I thought it might end there.
Well, weren't there claims at the start of the film of this being the final chapter?
Yeah, that's after Forbidden Fruit. That's part of the subtitle. But in true Friday the 13th style, there's another 4 after this. So I kind of like that about it. And also, the titles of the films kind of remind me of, like, the next one's called The Beginning. I'm sure there was a Friday the 13th called The New Beginning or something like that.
Okay.
So I think that maybe the titles have changed in this country to...
True.
So
I mean, Forbidden Fruit, I was a bit wary that the director might be I was poking Andy's phone to try to prompt him to find the director's name.
There you go.
So director Shun Nakahara, or Shun Nakahara possibly, and
Sean Nakari.
Nakahara's credentials, I looked him up on Movie, and it does seem like he's directed some sort of light erotic, sort of softcore films, and so I was a bit wary that Forbidden Fruit. I thought, oh dear, but while there's this sort of theme of older men being interested in younger women, it's fairly tastefully done. Like, this isn't an explicit film.
If you wonder where I've gone quiet, I'm just looking up the other films he's made. But yeah, I mean, I think he's a hired hand director for this.
Yeah, although, I think he's trying to do a few arty flourishes.
Don't get me wrong.
Shot up through the slats of a wooden staircase early on, which an arty choice.
I mean, he's obviously been picked because he can do the job. But yeah, he's done quite a lot by the looks of it.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen any properly auteurist Tomie films so far. To be fair, I mean, I don't think it's interesting compared, and it might be after we've done these worth just as a capper us watching the live action Uzumaki film, which I have a soft spot for. And there's nothing, I haven't seen any visual flourishes that are quite as interesting as what you get in the Uzumaki live action, which I think is kind of visually more ambitious than in any of these. But the thing with Uzumaki probably, it's one of Junji Ito's most well-known mangas for a good reason. It's great, but it's very much one thing after another. The basic idea is spirals have cursed a town, and thus any spirals you could possibly think of will crop up in the plot. So it's just like, right, snails, whirlpools.
Walnut whip.
Yeah, walnut whips. It is like that. The plot is pretty loose. And so with any of the adaptations of Uzumaki, it is basically a bunch of set pieces, but that's fine.
I did just want to go back to when you was tapping my phone. I was that close to saying, I do know I've got a message. We're recording the podcast, but now I know.
I was not trying to alert you to a message, Andy.
If it's an important message, I'm here anyway, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, I mean, I did enjoy this, and it's difficult, when we get to compare them to the other films later.
Oh, it's going to be. I'm trying to forget.
It's starting to get difficult, but I will say as well that we've touched on before that they're not that well known over here. I mean,
no.
Thank you for people have listened to the previous episode.
Yeah, we've got some listens.
So that's good, and I'm like, I'm not going to lie. I listen to quite a few various movie podcasts, and if I was to see this come up, I don't know whether I'd listen or not because I didn't know anything about it. But now that I've started watching them, I've got into it.
Yeah, see, I quite like listening to episodes and things, maybe wrongly, that I haven't seen or are a bit more obscure. So, as I mentioned before, big Evolution of Horror fan. I was just listening to the one on Raw, and you thought I meant the more recent French cannibal film. But actually, it's a 1970s film with real lions.
I know of the film after. But it's interesting because this is around the time of The Grudge and The Ring, and there's a reference to The Ring right at the end of this.
There is.
It's almost like there's a bit almost poking fun at it a little bit.
Yeah, and its success, I think so.
Yeah, so, but, I mean, as far as I know, they've made a lot more of these films than they have Ring films, if you don't count remakes.
Yeah, definitely.
But that's the way it goes sometimes with franchises. It's like, if it finds its cult audience, I don't know if I've mentioned this on an episode before, but a series like, say, Highlander, where they've made like 6 of them, and none of them have really been a big hit.
Yeah, but aren't there a lot of Wrong Turn films?
Yeah. I think it's, people forget. It's like, I had a bit of a rant earlier. This year in cinema, every blockbuster that's come out apart from The Odyssey, there's been articles and stories about how they haven't made money. But surely now, in this day and age, you have to wait until streaming and that sort of thing.
I see what you mean, yeah. So just the box office is not going to tell you enough.
And they know that when they're making these films now. After this is released, we're recording this on a Tuesday. On Wednesday, the new Spider-Man comes out. Okay. That film will be a big hit, right? Yeah. That's going to be. But a film like Master of the Universe and Supergirl and stuff, it won't do as well in the cinema, but I think they'll more than make their money back. We might get sequels from them. So there are still these big event films, but then there's other big films that just... Do you know what I'm trying to say?
No, I think I do know what you're saying. I mean, it's partly because of like the sort of splitting of audiences and things, and the rise of streaming, obviously. But I guess, I don't know how many people are buying the Tomie films on video.
Yeah, this is the thing. That's
and DVD.
That's what I think. And that's why they were catering for that audience, like going back to the 80s when you had something like Ghoulies. And they had like 8 sequels to a lot of things, and people don't think about that, and they just say, "Oh, it bombed," but also an article online about a movie bombing is clickbait. It's almost like people don't want to read if something's a hit,
or if something's just made a reasonable amount of money, And
another thing is we both liked it, but Obsession.
Oh yeah, I love it.
It's made a lot of money, but it's made a lot of profit. Actual tickets sold something like Master Universe and Supergirl would have sold a lot more tickets than that.
That's a very fair point.
But it's going by how much it costs, and so.
Although to be fair to Obsession, it's astonishing that it's still in cinemas. Some. I'm sure I've seen it still in some.
But instead of comparing that's Taken's to a comic book movie, they should compare that movie to, say, The New Evil Dead.
Sure.
And I bet you Obsession did make more money, but not a lot more. But it's like I say, it's clickbait. It's people wanting to read, and also with Obsession, people want to see the underdog film do well, which is cool.
That's true.
But it is worth. I mean, we mentioned it a lot because there's a lot of comparisons to the last Tomie film. In that, and but either way, I'm pleased when we get horror films in the cinema. We get more now, obviously, but going back 10 years, there wasn't a lot. You had the remake of these kind of movies. In sort of
sadly, when it's funny because I only really got into horror. I liked as a kid what I'd call children's horror, which is what my podcast's on. I loved Goosebumps as a kid, for instance. But actually, unlike you, I guess my parents weren't big film watchers, and there weren't many videos around the house either. And I think my parents wouldn't have let me watch certain things anyway. So I didn't grow up. I haven't got older brother or sister, so I didn't grow up watching much horror at all. And with the things that were in the cinema when I was a teenager, which was very much the Saw movies, Hostel, and then I guess some of the kind of grungy remakes like Rob Zombie's Halloween films. I wasn't very interested. They just seemed kind of cynical and nasty, too much torture. And it was really only around year 11, year 12 when I discovered like David Cronenberg, David Lynch, and watched Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead. Watched a lot of 70s and 80s horror that I was like, oh my gosh, these are great. I really love this genre. It was only then when I started to consider myself a horror fan. Before that, I wasn't even that into films as a kid. I read a lot.
I mean, I think the few years age difference for us. Because it's not many, but
a few years can make a difference.
Because I can remember, say, I was old enough I wasn't, but I got in to see the last Freddy film, New Nightmare. Whereas those few years, you probably don't even remember that coming out. No. So it does. There is that sort of. I can remember the end of the big slasher era as when I was young, and then I was old enough to go and see films like I Know You Did Last Summer and Scream.
I remember maybe those being on a bit of sleepovers. I was a bit wary of them. I think I kind of found Know What You Did Last Summer interesting. I remember.
But I can remember being old enough to be annoyed that even though I like Scream, I like the whole franchise, but I was annoyed that people didn't get that it was a comedy. And some people still don't as well. But that, for me, that was because I was at the age to remember what it was spoofing, whereas a lot of the audience didn't.
No, I wouldn't have got that. I mean, I remember in primary school, one of my friends really liking Lost Boys.
Yes.
I wish I'd seen it when I was...
Here's a story.
Excuse me, when I was younger.
when I was in primary school, I had a video cassette of the movie of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. This is before the TV series. I loved the film, and when the series came out, even now I don't mind it, but I like the old 90s film, which everyone thinks naff. Now, I was going on about it to the kids in my class. I must have been like year 5 or something. And a friend of mine at the time, Mark, was like, if you like that, borrow this. And he lent me his mum's video of the Lost Boys, and that's how I first saw it.
Oh, that's cool.
And I remember watching that film. And it's not that explicit, but there is a love scene in it.
Oh yeah.
And my dad walking in the room just went, "This isn't a kid's film." Raised his eyes and walked out. Because I think at that young age there was a rule where I could watch any 15 I want, but I weren't allowed many 18. Which they probably regret because nowadays that would be hard because most films were 18 when we were kids and they're 15 anyway.
Well, yeah, it's funny. Well, you mentioned that because at the school I'm working at now. It's SEND schools, largely autistic kids, and at the end of term, a lot of them were going out on trips, but some of them don't want to and want to just stay in the school. And to be fair, I can think of some of the kids who would be happy just staying there, drawing or reading for the whole day. But I thought, I kind of wanted the company as well. I'm not going to lie. So I said to one of the girls who is 15. whether she, I was tidying my room. I said, well, you can watch something in my room while I'm tidying if you want. And I know she likes anime, so I stuck on Serial Experiments Lane. Now, Lane used to be a 15, and is now down to a 12. And I was a little surprised, a bit where I was showing it at school, not because it's explicit at all. Has a lot of suicide in it. It's a very downbeat show, and I was quite surprised that the BBFC had put it down to 12, if I'm honest.
I'm surprised. I mean, some things that have gone down a certificate surprise me as much as something goes up. It's constantly changing because the rules are constantly changing on what the certificates are.
Yeah.
That's why it changes. But my personal favourite is all the, I'm going to say it, the kind of right-wingers who don't understand Blazing Saddles, and they think that it's just being racist for the sake of it, when in fact it's calling out racist.
Oh yeah,
and they always go, "Oh, you wouldn't make a film like that nowadays." Blazing Saddles has gone down to a 12 for that reason.
Yeah.
And so it should be.
I took George to see it at the cinema. Like a month or two back, and I he's clued up enough as. How old's George now? 14 turning 15. Yeah. So as a 14-year-old, he was clued up enough to get what it's doing.
Well, that's the thing, because the younger generation are.
Yeah.
It's the older ones who... The ones... When it was made 50 years ago, the people who were getting at didn't get it.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the reasons it was such a big hit.
Well, I guess it's the same with, Rednecks by Randy Newman, which I know he started to regret because he felt like people were singing along happily. We're rednecks. It's like, what? No.
Yeah. It's the Al Murray, Elf Garnett thing, isn't it? But yeah, the certificates are constantly changing, and it's like Evil Dead 2 is now a 15.
Oh, is it? I didn't know that.
And that's because it's so cartoony. It's got to be, hasn't it?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I've had teachers concerned about, and I do make safeguarding safeguarding referrals based on kids watching some inappropriate stuff. Like, one thing that troubles me, and I found this at my old school and at my new school, is the amount of parents who let their young teenage kids watch the Terrifier films, and I find that very odd. And because I haven't watched them; they're too much for me. But I get the impression they're very sadistic, right? They're very much enjoying torture.
It is, but it is so over the top.
Yeah,
especially the parts 2 and 3.
Yeah,
that it's so ridiculous that maybe
that's interesting.
But the first one, is. And the first one's pretty low budget. Yeah. So for me, that feels grimmer because of that.
That's interesting.
But I do like them. I don't think it's a statistic way. But also, I love special effects.
That's true. Sometimes it's just enjoying the craft. It's like one of the kids had seen The Thing, and it's like The Thing is an 18, or certainly used to be.
I think it's still is.
And it's like, part of me is like, oh, they shouldn't be watching The Thing. But also, with The Thing... It's so obviously special effects, and you're enjoying the special effects. I don't think in The Thing you're ever going to think any of it is real, because it's, body horror creatures with dog heads.
Yeah, I think that probably is a 15 now. I don't, because it probably hasn't had the cinematic re-release to get a new certificate. It's like a film like Alien. Whenever that goes back to the cinema, is a 15. But because it has to go through a different thing when it comes a physical release... So if you used to buy a new Blu-ray of it, it would still be 18.
Interesting.
So it's but, a lot of it's laziness, and they don't want to pay for the...
Well, I guess it's like... So when so with The Thing, which I love, obviously, I think it existentially is a disturbing film. Some of the ideas in it are disturbing, and it's quite... Sometimes a very alienating, quiet film being set in the Arctic. But a lot of it, even watching it when I first watched it as a teenager, albeit an older teenager, was enjoying the craft, enjoying the animatronics, and the special effects. Whereas I think I mentioned finding the baseball bat scene in this quite disturbing, not super disturbing, but a bit disturbing, and I think that's because I'd expected from a Tomie film the violence to be quite silly on some level and supernatural, and this is just a middle-aged bloke hitting teenage girls with a baseball bat.
Yeah, this is
which is something that happens in life, and that actually, even though it's not super bloody, I found that more disturbing than
because there is no special effect. That's why it feels real. But this is probably the darkest one we've watched so far.
Do you think? How so? That's interesting.
Just because of the whole things like that. And the whole father-daughter relationship, and the whole luring her in. It's not... I thought it was obvious, but people won't see it. She lures the girl in as a relationship other than a boy.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
But more, and the girl seems more needy. As in,
that's it.
As in
she's very vulnerable because she doesn't have any friends. She's very lonely.
She needs the friends, whereas in other ones they've just wanted sex. Basically.
I see what you mean, actually, and maybe Tomie is kind of being more of a groomer, weirdly, in this film. She is quite predatory in what she's... I mean, she's always predatory, but it's like... I see what you mean. Her way of doing it is kind of nastier.
And she's going for the dad, who, if our theory about what happened in the past is right, he's not... The only thing he's done wrong is misjudge the situation...
Yeah.
Opposed to actually being malicious.
Yeah, that he wasn't originally a predatory, malicious character.
Yeah, it might be like, basically, he's a... quiet, nervous guy. His girlfriend, he thinks, has gone off with someone else.
Yeah.
He feels bad and just lets her get on with it and moves on. Yeah,
which is possibly one of the better ways of responding realistically.
Yeah. So with things like that, it just felt a bit...
That's a really interesting point, actually, that the kind of two kind of main victims, in a sense, in this film probably are less deserving than usual. But then maybe that's why they kind of don't meet their comeuppance and they actually... triumph compared to a lot of the other victims in Tomie.
And maybe that's why it was meant to be the last one. I just want to go back to what we were talking about, the certificate things. When I was in primary school, this is just what this, the TV was wheeled out. This is primary school, so the oldest age you'd have been would be 12 probably. They wheeled out at Christmas the Bill Murray film Scrooged. Which is now a 12. So they messed up. In hindsight, they showed us all a film that if future us wouldn't have been able to watch.
Hopefully you can go back in time, and when the teacher's about it, you can say, "Stop! Stop! For the love of the kids!" And you can throw the TV to the ground.
And they'll say, "What harm would it do?" And I'll be like, "I turned out like this."
Look at me! This is what Scrooge did to me.
Saying that, I saw that in the cinema when I was 7, so I'd have been messed up anyway.
The only thing I remember watching in primary was the very disturbing children's horror, definitely, look and read series Through the Dragon's Eye. Which teaches you very educational words like Vitacore. Veetacore, Vitacore. The Vitacore is the source of power within the world of Through the Dragon's Eye. But it had an evil skeleton dragon in it called Chan. And it scared me enough that I'd beg my mum not to send me to school because I didn't want to see it.
For me, it was just I didn't want to do PE. But I think I've said this before, we watched Ghostwriter, which is something I think would work well for
I should do Ghostwriter.
Because I assumed that was made for schools and stuff, but I don't think it was.
No, because it feels like a kind of look and read thing. But no, I don't think it is.
But I remember liking it, and that was for me, in school, whenever the TV was rolled out, I loved it because that meant I didn't have to do any actual work.
Whereas nowadays, honestly, I remember trying to show a film at my old school where I was working. At the end, to be fair, it was the Romeo and Juliet. It's the Baz Luhrmann one, and that's all sex and violence, really, isn't it?
That's in that bag. I bought it recently to rewatch it because I haven't seen that for a long time.
It's got guns.
And
it's got a young hunky Leonardo DiCaprio.
They got him who played Luigi in the Mario film, who's really good. I forget his name. He's in the Odyssey.
But anyway, the kid, one of the kids, he kept wanting to check his phone. I was like, look, we're watching this film, and he was like, I can't, you don't understand. I haven't got the attention. I can't do it. He was almost crying, trying to explain how he was unable to watch a film. It was disturbing.
It is scary.
It was actually quite sad.
But so they're allowed to check phones during lessons?
Well, no, they weren't meant to. Obviously, that's why I was telling them off. But now there's phone bans coming in schools, so now they're not allowed their phones at all in schools. Which is, I think, for the best.
Well, I'm 44, right, and I'm on my phone too much. So I joke about it, but I feel bad for the kids because they're brought up with it, and it's just habit.
And if you've had one since you were in a pram, you see a lot of kids who, a lot of little 3-4-year-olds with tablets and phones.
Anyway, gone off topic. But as I said, I felt this one. I thought the ending to this one, I don't want to spoil it, but I think this film ended pretty well.
There's some good twists and turns. I don't think we knew exactly where it was heading, which is nice.
So overall, I think this is one of the better ones.
I think it's one of the better ones. I mean, it's tricky in terms of ranking them. It depends what you want. If you want a fun Tomie film with more special effects, go for the third one. Yeah. If you want, a genuinely pretty decent J-horror, go for the first one. If you want one which is a bit darker and more of a psychodrama and genuinely a bit unsettling, then I think, Tomie Forbidden Fruit's a pretty good call, actually.
So this time, I'll do my rankings first, because you did last time. Okay, this is going to get difficult. We might even have to start making notes at some point.
I think so.
9 of it. So I am going Part 3, Part 1, Part 5, Part 4, Part 2.
I think I'm going the same as you, to be honest.
Because it's easier?
I think 4 and 5. I think it could go either way. There are things I liked about both, things I didn't like about both. I think what's we said this last time with Tomie Rebirth, and I think it's fair to say here as well, is that they never get boring somehow. There are times where they're slow, and there are times where you're waiting for something to happen, but I've never really felt bored during any of them, and I'm quite impressed by that. The anthology one, weirdly, is the closest I felt to being bored, which is the second one, which is odd, because that one has shorter plots.
Yeah, I was about to say, but that's because the same things happen for a third time, so it feels a bit, so basically, this one slots right in the middle.
Yeah.
Right in the middle. If I was to give it a round out of 5, it'd be about 3.5.
Yeah, I'm like 2.5, but I'm generally less generous with my ratings.
Yeah, you wait till I get you on the Police Academy marathon. It will never happen.
It's pretty decent. I feel like I've kind of lucked out a bit in terms of, because obviously before this we did the Phantasm films, and all of those, I didn't think any of them were bad. I thought at worst they're watchable and engaging, and same here. I feel like at worst they're still pretty watchable and engaging.
It won't be long before I just have next time I feel ill or something, I'm just going to watch the Phantasm films. I reckon I could do all 5 in 2 nights.
I'm glad we're doing these, not like all the Hellraiser films.
Yeah, but this is one that we've mentioned for a lot of people. I think I could do a series on Hellraiser, either just the first 4, or do like one every few months.
Yeah.
Because the first few are great, but it just goes too away from what it's supposed to be. But we'll see. I see there's a new Arrow have released a 4K of the first 4. I've got Blu-rays of the first 3, but you know what I'm like. I might go buy meals for another few days and get that. But the remake of actually Hellraiser, the way to do it would be an episode comparing the original with the remake, and then leave it there.
Yeah,
and maybe a follow up to part 2 and 3.
Yeah. By the by, while we're still recording, I wasn't that fond of the new Evil Dead.
I liked it, but it didn't feel Evil Dead-y enough for me.
It wasn't fun.
The funnest bit was after the credits.
Oh, I didn't stay.
Tell
me afterwards.
But it's. I still think Evil Dead is a franchise where there isn't a bad one.
Yeah.
But I think that's my least favourite.
I have a soft spot because I'm goofy for Army of Darkness. Yep. I actually like Army of Darkness. It's fun.
It's love
really entertaining.
The TV series.
I still haven't watched
Ash
it.
vs. Evil Dead is amazing. It's and people were complaining, they've done 3 seasons and it stopped. It's like, we're lucky to get 1 season. We're lucky to get 1 episode of it. The pilot episode directed by Sam Raimi is like another Evil Dead. But it's so good that I'm glad they made it. And it's the same. It's better, but it's the same as the Chucky series. I was so pleased with that. And things aren't going to run forever. And I'd rather have a short... Well, 3 seasons isn't short, but I'd rather have a shorter run than for it to run out of ideas and get boring.
Yeah.
So there we go.
Cool. So next one is Tomie Beginning.
Yeah.
So a few years plus. So this one was 2002. Tomie Beginning is 2005.
Yeah, Tomie Beginning, part 6, which I think is funny. Hopefully there'll be more people called Tomie in this, and eventually it will turn into the Monty Python Bruce sketch. But we've just call him Tomie because it's easier. So thank you very much for joining me. Next episode, talk about your podcast.
So I say the current one is Amazing Digital Circus, which, if you haven't seen, is a massive, massive hit with all the kids, like millions of views. If you work at a school, you will have heard of it. Yeah. So if you're interested in what the youth are into, it's kind of fascinating. Like, I try to argue it's basically like vaporwave for young Zoomers and Gen Alpha, because it's like, without over-explaining, basically vaporwave is for millennials who can't really remember the 80s.
Yeah.
And this is like vaporwave for young people who can't really remember the early 2000s. So all the aesthetics remind me of like CD-ROM games I played when I was a kid, basically, and things like the old Windows 95 screensavers, like the Maze one. And like the early days of the internet where you had GeoCities. So it's all like nostalgic for the early days of the internet that this young generation didn't experience.
So people older would probably relate to it more than they think.
In a way, it's good though. It is good. And the next one we're doing, Ren has just seen the not re-release, but the BFI. They're doing this season on puppetry, and they've just shown Jan Schwankmaar's version of Alice, his very unsettling stop motion version of Alice in Wonderland, which I've seen lots of times. I know my Czech animation because my postgrad was on it. So we're doing that next, and then after that, I'm very excited because Ren has agreed to us doing Shelley Duvall's Nightmare Classics.
Okay.
So I would imagine Shelley Duvall's Fairy Tale Theatre, was it called? So there's a Shelley Duvall fronted series where they did with I think puppets supplied by Jim Henson's Creature Factory.
I haven't seen it, but I remember.
And the storyteller, I know.
Yeah. That's how I think I've heard of it, from connections with that. From if you like this, try this.
Yeah. Well, at the end of Fairy Tale Theatre, she did. There are, I think, 6 episodes made, but only 4 released, of a series aimed at older children called Nightmare Classics, which was an attempt to introduce them to gothic classics like Carmilla and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Ooh. So slightly Amdram style.
So they only released 4 episodes, but are they all available now?
No, on YouTube it's just those 4. So I'm looking forward to doing those. Ren loves Shelley Duvall, so Ren will just go on about Shelley Duvall the whole time, I think.
Excellent. Cool. So thank you all for listening. Follow Still Scared on your listening things. Follow us, rate them, and I'll be back very soon with either another Stephen King one, but that's sort of slowed down a bit actually. But I've got a few people coming on who are recommending an underrated horror or sci-fi film for me.
Exciting.
Some of which I haven't seen, some I have, but we've been doing random episodes on things like that as well. There's some really interesting ones coming up. Out of the ones I have seen, there's a few, I'm not going to say just in case it goes wrong, but some B-movie type ones I'm very, very pleased to see. And I have mentioned as well, because it's the 30th anniversary, I will be doing an episode on The Frighteners as well. Because
nice.
That's been on the cards since.
I like The Frighteners.
See, I haven't seen it for ages. I remember liking it, but I haven't seen it.
I think I could do that on the podcast. That's basically children's horror.
Yeah, you could. Yeah. Well, nowadays you could probably do Terrifier. So on that note, we'll be back very soon. Thank you all very much.